Welcome to our episode of College Briefing. Grab a seat, folks, because today's news roundup is as diverse as a college cafeteria menu. First up, financial news is buzzing with the Bank of Japan, BOJ, potentially ending its negative interest rates and considering a rate hike for the first time since 2007. This move could shake up the carry trading game and has China watching closely with a hopeful eye. Meanwhile, across the pond, the U.S. Federal Reserve is also hinting at a change in rates, leaving the bond market in a bit of a tizzy after its earlier predictions of significant easing fell through. In a different sphere, the Supreme Court is diving into the digital world, weighing in on a lawsuit accusing the Biden administration of suppressing conservative viewpoints on social media. As if that's not enough legal drama, Russia's election quality is under the microscope, with a study pointing out a decline in free and fair elections across 35 countries. And for a sprinkle of sports and a dash of democracy, the Maryland women's basketball team is NCAA tournament bound, facing Iowa State in a thrilling first-round matchup. Over in Vermont, the tradition of town meeting day is holding strong, offering a slice of direct democracy that feels increasingly rare. So, whether you're into finance, politics, or sports, there's something in today's news platter for you. Stay tuned for the detailed scoop on these stories. Please continue watching for more in-depth coverage. What happens when the BOJ kicks the football? Bloomberg. The Bank of Japan, BOJ, is considering ending negative interest rates and raising rates for the first time since 2007, according to Japanese financial news service Nikkei. The move could have implications for carry traders and China. Carry trading is a tactic that involves borrowing in a country with low interest rates and investing in a country where returns are higher. A carry trade that borrows in yen and invests in the Mexican peso has been highly lucrative in 2020, but a cut in Mexican rates would make the trade unprofitable. Meanwhile, China would stand to benefit from higher Japanese rates as a stronger yen would improve its economic outlook. The BOJ is set to make an announcement on rates this week. The U.S. Federal Reserve, Fed, is also set to make an announcement on rates this week. The bond market is currently indicating that it was mistaken in expecting significant easing from the Fed this year. In January, the market expected the Fed to cut rates at least 6 times, but it now expects only 3 rate cuts. The change in sentiment is partly due to the fact that inflation and unemployment are not worsening, but are also not improving rapidly. The market is also concerned about secondary data issues such as rising wage costs and rising commodity prices. The market may therefore overreact to the nuanced course of action laid out by Fed Chair Jerome Powell. Supreme Court weighs how far federal officials can go to combat controversial posts on hot topics. Associated Press. The Supreme Court is to hear arguments in a lawsuit filed by Louisiana, Missouri, and other parties accusing the Biden administration of unconstitutionally suppressing conservative viewpoints on social media platforms. The states claim that White House communications staffers, the Surgeon General, the FBI, and the U.S. Cybersecurity Agency have coerced changes in online content on platforms such as Facebook and Twitter. The companies themselves are not involved in the case. Russia's farce election sums up a grim moment in global democracy. Washington Post. A new study has found that 35 countries have seen a decline in free and fair elections. The VDEM Institute's democracy report found that 24 countries are increasingly encroaching upon the autonomy of election management bodies, undermining integrity in elections and casting doubt over the independence of the commissions that conduct them. The erosion of election quality is particularly alarming as elections can either reinforce or counteract the autocratization trend, the institute noted. Maryland women return to NCAA tournament, will face Iowa State in first round. Washington Post. The Maryland women's basketball team is heading to the NCAA tournament, where it will face Iowa State in the first round. The Terrapins were the last team named to the tournament and are the number 10 seed in the Portland 4 region. Maryland, 19-13, is in the tournament for the 17th time in the past 18 seasons. The Terrapins have advanced to at least the second round in 12 consecutive NCAA tournaments. In Vermont, town meeting is democracy embodied. What can the rest of the country learn from it? Associated Press. Across the United States, people are disgusted with politics. Many feel powerless and alienated from their representatives at every level, and especially from those in Washington. The tone long ago became nasty, and many feel forced to pick a side and view those on the other side as adversaries. But in pockets of New England, democracy is done a bit differently. People can still participate directly and in person. One day each year, townsfolk gather to hash out local issues. They talk, listen, debate, vote. And in places like Elmore, once it's all over, they sit down together for a potluck lunch. town meeting is a tradition that, in Vermont, dates back more than 250 years, to before the founding of the Republic. But it is under threat. Many people feel they no longer have the time or ability to attend such meetings. Last year, residents of neighboring Morristown voted to switch to a secret ballot system, ending their town meeting tradition. Not so in Elmore, population 886. Its residents are used to holding tight to traditions. They've fought to keep open their post office, their store and their school, the last one-room schoolhouse in the state. Last fall, Elmore residents voted 2-1 in favor of keeping their town meetings. Comet that passes Earth once every 71 years now visible in night sky. The Independent. Comet 12P Ponsbrooks, which passes by Earth every 71 years, is currently visible in the night sky using binoculars or a small telescope. There is a possibility it may become visible with the naked eye in the coming weeks. As the comet gets closer to the sun, the heat causes the ice to turn into gas, forming a cloud of gas around the solid nucleus of the comet. The comet is currently below and to the left of the Andromeda Galaxy. Woman rescued after falling overboard in the Miami River, cops say. She nearly drowned. Yahoo! A woman fell overboard off a boat and into the Miami River on Sunday afternoon, according to officials. The woman was rescued and taken to a local hospital, where her condition is unknown. Authorities are investigating the circumstances that led to the incident. This incident follows the recent death of a man who fell overboard from a charter yacht in the same river. The 5 top contenders to win the NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament. Washington Post. The NCAA Women's Basketball Tournament is set to begin, and there are 5 teams that are considered the most likely to win the championship. The first team is South Carolina, which enters the tournament undefeated and is the favorite to win the title for the 3rd time. The team has been strong on both offense and defense, with an average margin of victory of 29.8 points and the country's best defensive record. The second team is Iowa, led by Caitlin Clark, who has been one of the top players in women's college basketball this season. Iowa's success will depend on Clark's offensive dominance and the team's ability to improve its below-average defense. The third team is Stanford, which has a strong frontcourt and a solid defense. The fourth team is LSU, which has a dominant frontcourt duo and has been performing well in recent games. The fifth team is Connecticut, which has a healthy Paige Buchers and Aaliyah Edwards. The team has been playing well recently and could be a strong contender in the tournament. A missed chance to eradicate fire ants could cost Australia $38 billion. The Sydney Morning Herald. An outbreak of fire ants in Australia could cost the country 38 billion Australian dollars, $29 billion, over 3 decades, equivalent to 2.8% of GDP, according to the Center of Excellence for Biosecurity Risk Analysis. The ants, which are native to South America and have previously colonized the southern U.S., could cause significant damage to agriculture, tourism, native animals and human health. The total cost of agriculture and recreation and tourism would exceed 1.5% of GDP, with 1.3% of GDP representing the environmental cost, the center said. Anxiety and relief at Match Day event for UNM medical students. Yahoo! Glenn Ratmeyer scooted in close to his wife, Haley, as he clutched the silver-gray envelope, perhaps for moral support, perhaps mindful of staying in frame for a FaceTime conversation with his brother on the phone propped in front of them. Another Aggie joke, secret system flops. Yahoo! New Mexico State University's regents have wasted 8 months before aborting their attempt to hire a president, with the decision made that none of the candidates deserved the job. The regents operated a search in secret, with members of the public unaware of how many people applied or if there were better candidates. All ethnic groups matter, Chinese textbook spells out integration policies. South China Morning Post. A new textbook to be taught at Chinese universities cites political division in the West to justify Beijing's ethnic integration policies, whose focus has shifted from minorities to all ethnic groups. The book, An Introduction to the Community for the Chinese Nation, was published in February and will soon be listed as a compulsory text at many universities, as is the case with courses on Marxism and Xi Jinping thought. The book argues that after the 1970s, under the influence of neoliberalism in the West, antagonisms between various groups based on subnational and subcultural identities have continued to grow, with racial and ethnic tensions being particularly intense. The textbook said in the U.S. lower middle class white people blame people of color and ethnic minorities for the wealth gap brought by economic globalization. The book was jointly written by around a dozen Chinese scholars known for advocating ethnic integration. Its chief editor is Pan Yu, the director of the National Ethnic Affairs Commission, responsible for drafting laws on China's ethnic minority policy and enforcing those laws and regulations. Silver lining, Tutoring the elderly is growing fast in China. Japan Times. China's aging population is creating a growing market for recreational classes and activities for the elderly middle class. Companies are offering a range of activities, from yoga to African drumming and smartphone photography, to cater to this market. This industry is thriving in contrast to the declining after-school private tutoring sector, which has been affected by government regulations aimed at lowering education costs and increasing birth rates. This shift towards the silver economy presents significant growth potential for businesses in the elderly learning sector. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision-making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.